Well, hello, everybody. I'm going to teach for a little while, and then we'll take some questions. What this is about is I've always loved the idea of the CAGED system. It's a great acronym. You know, C-A-G-E-D. And the chord shapes are good, but in truth, if you take the C chord and bring it up to here, that's the D chord. So the C and the D basically share kind of the same triad, same with the G and the A right here. So I think a better approach is to see triads everywhere on the neck, C chords everywhere on the neck. And this particular progression is somewhat challenging in that way because it goes D, A, E kind of fast 3 times in a row. Not only does that, but the second time around it does E, D, A, E, B minor, and you can either ignore the B minor or play to it. And then the final turnaround, you can kind of just play the blues, and that's pretty cool. So what I'm going to show you is an example of playing above the chord shapes and playing close to the chord shapes. But first, let me show you the chord shapes. Here we go. So I'm going to do a quick tune-up because I like to be in tune. Oh, there we go. That B was a little bit sharp. There we go. So I'm seeing those chord shapes. The point I want to make to you, that I want to stress to you, is I'm seeing those triad chord shapes as the chords go by. And they're my map. They're my heads-up display while I solo. And now I'm going to show you a simple melodic solo where I'm playing above the chord shapes, and then the third time around, I kind of settle in and actually play the chord shapes. Here we go. Let me show you this. And then, of course, over that last turnaround, I just play the blues, try and be B.B. King for a second if I can. So let me show you this. Even though I'm not playing these shapes, I'm very aware of them. They're a map that I'm looking at on a heads-up display in my mind as I go. Okay, so here I'm playing above the D, right? And here I'm playing above the A. And then I'm settling in and actually playing part of the E triad, okay? And then I'm moving downward and seeing these inversions, D, A, E, and I do this. And then I drop down there because I'm seeing the B minor that's going by really, really quickly. And then the third time around, here's where you actually see the chord shapes best because I'm actually kind of playing within the chord shapes here when I do this. You can see the D here, the A really clearly there, and then you can see the 5 and the 3 of the E right there. So I'm playing above the chord shapes for the first 2 rounds and then within the chord shapes for the last round. And then when it goes to the final turnaround, that's when I ignore the chord shapes. So for every rule, every strategy you have on the guitar, I say look for the opposite strategy and try that and use them in combination, in tandem, and it keeps everything really fresh. So what you get in something like this is a melodic solo for part of it, and then you break away, turn your mind off, and just play the blues in fact, E pentatonic minor. I mean, it's really that simple because the chords are G to A and then G to F sharp minor. And as I often do, I do a very simple chord sheet so that this is actually very freeing for your brain because you don't have to memorize. Now, a lot of musicians I know and work with have great memories, better than mine, and they love to memorize. But for me, I'd rather kind of float, and if I need to remember where I'm at, I just look down at this. Now, of course, if you're playing live, it's not appropriate. But, you know, if I'm working in a session or working on something at home, I love to see the chords in front of me. So that's something that I use. And certainly even playing live sometimes, if I'm doing a lot of material and it's a one-nighter, I'll maybe have some cheap cheat sheets down on the ground. But of course, if you have a gig, you got to show up for the first rehearsal and know all the songs. We know about that. Anyway, so let me play again, and I'll demonstrate how seeing the chord shapes in the first part of it make you a more melodic player, and then it's great to just go to E pentatonic minor as an alternative on the turnaround. I'll try and exaggerate that if I can. Here we go. So do you see the shift in attitude there? And that to me is what makes a solo interesting, is constantly shifting your game between one thing and another. And you could even go as far as to say obeying the rules and breaking the rules. I'm going to show you what it's like to break the rules more. I'm going to play minor over major over the whole thing. And let's see what that feels like. Okay, there's some rubs in there. So I wouldn't want to do it very long, but you could break into that if you want. And then combine all this, see the chord shapes everywhere. Oh, and see them low too. Like if I put on some heavy effects and play some low lines, I can see D, A, and E down low too. Let me just demonstrate that. So that actually sounded pretty cool. What I tried to do there is I turned on my 3 UA effects over here. I've got delay, heavy reverb, and tremolo, in addition to some other effects that are in the DAW. And I went to the treble pickup just to see if I could get to more of a Fender place. Like, of course, this guitar's not going to do that, but the low stuff sounds better if it's skinnier and doesn't load up with a lot of bass. So certainly the bridge pickup, and you can even go what's called ponticello for parts like this, the low parts, and pick near the bridge. That is really effective. Let me turn the delays off and show you these chord shapes. So what I was seeing here was D here, A here, and E here. And then D here, A here, and E here. And then D here, A here, and E here. So what I encourage you to do is, this is beyond the CAGED system. The CAGED system is a great start. It really, really is. But it's really the triads that give you all the freedom, and they appear everywhere. So if I'm looking for a D triad, let me turn the delay off for this. And then spread triads. Anytime you find the intervals 1, 3, and 5 on the neck and you combine them, you have a new shape, a new heads-up display that you can use as your map, and you dance around those things. You dance above them, you dance below them. Now, the real benefit to seeing these as you play, no matter what you're playing, is that often it's the last note of a phrase that gets you in trouble. That's where, like, a strategy I use for turning my mind off on this particular piece of music is I ignore the chords totally, and I'll play in E mixolydian or E pentatonic major, and I'll play fast, or just I'll keep a flow going. But whenever I want to end a phrase, I have to end that last note in the right place, and that's where it could get into trouble. So you literally can ignore these rules if you're playing, E mixolydian, a flurry of notes. But when you land, you need to see that map again so that you don't hit the wrong note when you land. Let's demonstrate that. Okay. Right. So it's fun. It's fun to do that. That's just E mixolydian. But when I landed here on the E, and then I walked down to the flat third of B minor. So I was seeing this and then this. And that gave me a good ending. Let me try one more demonstration of this. Here we go. I landed on an A note, which is part of the D chord, and those two chords traveled underneath as I held that A note, and then I landed on the third of the E chord. Now, before we move on to some questions, let me just show you some other strategies that I use in a situation like this. Open strings, drones. Let's try a couple of those things. So that's another great thing. If you're in a particular key like this, the drones really work well. And also, I'm a huge proponent of single string melodies. There's something about staying on one string when you're a guitar player playing a solo. It just sounds good. Let me demonstrate that. It's just you get this connectivity, this legato connectivity, and there's just a certain sound to it that's really good. A couple other things I'll call your attention to. Pick velocity is really important. I get most of my speed with my left hand. One of the benefits of that is that you never sound like a typewriter. I mean, I love people who pick really fast and pick really well, but if you're picking not all the notes, then it becomes like a speaking voice, and there's punctuation. And even if you only achieve 2 levels of dynamics here, that more than anything will make you sound more like a performer and a pro rather than a beginner. Speaking of which, there is a link below for a special offer on the Masterclass just for this weekend. And if you click that link, you get a 14-day free trial, and you can opt out if you want. But more than that, we just debuted a total beginner's course with 80 videos, and we're going to keep adding to it. So if you're one of those people who has never played and want to play, or maybe you haven't played in a long time and you want to go back and kind of start again, then take a look at it, see if you like it. So this sale, it's a discount. It's just click the link below, and you can take the free trial and check it out. And if it's not for you, 2 weeks is hopefully plenty of time for you to see if you like it. But a lot of people stay, so we're lucky. Put the delays back on. My secret addiction to delays. Here we go. It's not so secret. Another thing I use all the time, you guys know this, is double stops. And included in that is 6. Which quickly turn into spread triads if you just add one more note. For some other guitar players, Guthrie Trapp talks about this a lot, and that's how I learned that it was a legit thing, because he, in many of his lessons, he will talk about seeing chord shapes everywhere. And so that's just kind of a coincidence. We both talk about that. But for someone of his skill and virtuosity to espouse, and champion this simple strategy made me feel better about it, because I really believe in it. Just seeing the triads everywhere on the neck. And you brought up the modes. The modes take care of themselves. I mean, Alan Hines, he came over one day and he said, you only really use 3 modes for most of your guitar career, maybe 4. So that's one thing. Once you realize, you go, okay, well, then it's not such an uphill thing, But I have to say, I knew the modes before I knew what their names were. And now, when I teach the modes, I still have to go to Google and make sure I know Aeolian and Mixolydian. I know Mixolydian, but the difference between Ionian and Aeolian, I might forget that. I learned the modes when I was 12 years old because I had a great guitar teacher, but we didn't talk about the names. So I see them. That's another thing. I have a heads-up display of the modes when I play the guitar too. But the modes, all they are, take a major scale, start that major scale on every interval. So you go 1 to 1, 2 to 2, 3 to 3, 4 to 4, 5 to 5, 6 to 6, 7 to 7. That's really pretty easy when you look at it that way. Nothing's easy on the guitar, but does the beginner course have a structure to it? It does have a structure. Most of the Masterclass doesn't. The Masterclass is up to 1,700 videos and about 140 hours of content, and it's a basket of content, and you really have to create your own curriculum because there's so much there. Low to high, intermediate. But the beginner course I designed to be totally structured. I finally had the time to do that. Most of the Masterclass was made over the last decade in between me doing session work, and so I would just do stuff that I loved and drop it in. But it is structured in the sense that there's lead guitar courses, tone courses. It is in categories. And might I mention, there is a sale on the Masterclass for this weekend. Click the link below. Take the 14-day free trial if you're interested. Oh, yeah, thanks for posting that, Nigel. Tomo Fujita is all about the triads. See, there you go. There you have another person that we all respect and who's, very famous at this point, and he's the real deal. He has taught at Berkeley. I think he still teaches at Berkeley. But he's gotten so busy and so successful with his YouTube channel that I don't know how long he'll be doing that, but he probably will stay there because he loves doing it, and that's his, those are his people, that's his family. But I've seen, you'll see a triad video from Tomo come up once a month, which is easy for him because he's doing like 60 videos a month. So, but that's another story. Does a lot of work. He's a very hard worker. Okay, let me play a little and then a couple more questions. Here we go. So that was with both distortion pedals on. So, it's funny. I almost think that's too distorted, after playing through the cycle. One of the things my brain is always doing, and yours might be too, you might be this way too, is if you're constantly evaluating, You know, is it too bright? Is it too harsh? Does it have enough sustain? Am I playing too fast? Am I playing too slow? Those questions are always there, but they're actually healthy because, you know, if you listen back or watch yourself play, then you can go, oh my, I didn't need to play 32 notes in a row. It would have been better if I played 5 notes and then 5 notes. So it's good to have these, you know, to be thinking about stuff. And I was thinking right there, okay, this is a good sound. But it's best, with these 2 pedals, there's so much distortion, it's best if I'm almost up here on the neck and on my treble pickup. Right, because you get down here, gets a little bit raspy. I much prefer down here with the middle pickup and just 1 gain pedal on, because then I feel like, oh, that sounds a little like Dickie Betts from the Allman Brothers. Whereas this up here, that's excellent for being high on the neck and playing aggressively. And the thing that's great about the guitar, right? If I'm in this key, there's so much you can do, so many, you know, blemishes, and you can bump it and grind it. And the guitar is so cool that way. I wouldn't say the violin is that way. The guitar is like, just the noises you make on the guitar, even if they're the wrong noises, work. But the reason that worked is I was looking at the chat and I went, oh, that's not in the scale, but it went by fast. So thank you so much. Okay, here we go. Distortion pedals. Well, they're overdrive pedals. I'm gonna play us out. Thank you guys so much for all your support. Thanks for coming today, and we'll see you on the next one. Really enjoyed it. All right, guys.